Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye has friends. No, really, Jeff has friends. Jeff's friends are on this podcast. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship.
Friendship.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the episode we've been teasing you about. Told you I got a big guest coming in 2020. We didn't know exactly when. Then last week on Leo Lamar's episode, I said we got a big guest coming for you next week. Well, the time has finally come. Ladies and gentlemen, your first celebrity guest of 2020, like big celebrity, big out there celebrity, Ted Giannoulas, the Canadian who made the San Diego chicken come to life. He is the world famous San Diego chicken, and we brought him all the way up here from San Diego and put him in the Fortress of Solid Dudes. You guys are gonna love this episode. If you don't know a lot about mascots, this is the guy. This is the Michael Jordan of mascots. He is the Tiger Woods of mascots. He was the original. He was the best. He's very silly. He's been doing this for 5 decades. I mean, the stories that we didn't tell are even great. The guy he's hung out with presidents. I mean, all the sports athletes of virtually NBA, MLB, NFL, race car things. He's done like private events, weddings. The San Diego chicken has been a huge staple of American culture and pop culture, and this guy is such a cool guy, and it was so awesome to have him here. Not only is he great and cool, but he did the entire episode in costume because he needs to protect the identity of who's inside, which is a big code of mascots. So he was willing to do the entire episode in costume. So big thank you to Ted Giannoulas. I know you guys are going to love this. One quick preface of this is, and you might have heard me say this before, but why I love mascots is because I'm a silly guy, right? And I like when things are silly. But also, sports don't need to be that serious all the time. It's okay to have fun in sports too. It's not the most important thing in the world, sports. You know, there's a place for this. There's a place for the silliness, and he perfectly does this with his gags and his sketches, and he brings smiles to people's faces when he goes and walks around these parks and does all of his stuff. A mascot is good. Why? Well, because players will break your heart. LeBron James, when he left Cleveland and went to Miami, a lot of sad people in Cleveland. When Derrick Rose hurts his leg and you're not going to see him for the rest of the season or maybe 2. That breaks the fans' hearts because he's gone. They really liked him. That's the beauty of a mascot. A mascot's never going to leave. He's never going to get traded. He's never going to get hurt. He doesn't age. That's the fun thing about mascots, and that's why we should be encouraging the mascots and supporting the mascots because they are the spirit of the team. Without further ado, enjoy Ted Giannoulas, the world-famous San Diego chicken. And just like that, we're in. You know, when I started this podcast, people always said, hey, you know, who is your ideal, who's the guest you want to get, you know? And they expected me to say a Hulk Hogan or LeBron James. I came back with the San Diego chicken, those two-headed girls, you know, those twins, right? Those conjoined twins. I would love to talk to those gals, Brittany and Amber. But we got the number one request. We got my number one request in my own home in the Fortress of Solid Dudes. Ladies and gentlemen, the world famous San Diego chicken.
Jeff, Tony, I'm very honored. Thank you for having me on.
Oh my gosh,
so
this is a
happy to
dream
have
come
you.
true.
Yeah,
it's really a dream come true.
Seriously, you were the first mascot. In my opinion, is that an accurate statement?
Yes, from a professional sense, yes. I think mascots were always around as far back as I can remember. but for a professional sense, like a fan dressing up and coming to a ball game or a sports event, I started it off in 1974. Before that, you can relatively say it was BC, before chicken.
Yeah, and they were weird. There was some real weird mascots that, like I guess in Philadelphia, those big giant things, and like those are our mascots. You're like, those aren't mascots.
Yes, it's very interesting. Yeah, the wooden toy soldiers, I
They're
believe.
huge
Yeah.
or something. It was like a weird thing. I was like, that doesn't count.
Yeah, and also the Mets say that they had a mascot head that they would put on the Bat Boy on opening day for the opening ceremonies, but that was it. Yeah, and that was like 62, 63. And, but, somebody told me a long time ago, when you really look at the landscape of everything of Americana, there were always mascots, but for products or, corporations and such, but never anything live, for a sports event. Until I started showing up as a rock and roll radio station promotion in 1974.
And now I know the story. That's the problem with this podcast. I'm too inside baseball. So this is for the audience. I want the audience to learn about you. So I might ask you some stuff I already know. But the story of how you became the San Diego Chicken is a very fascinating. So what's the genesis of that?
It was a 1-week promotional gimmick. I was a student at San Diego State University, and it was the day before Easter break, and in walks a representative from KGB Radio, rock and roll, classic rock station in town, and they were looking for any student to dress up in a chicken suit for a week. $2 an hour was the pay. The whole premise was just to go to the zoo and give away candy Easter eggs. And at that time, he came to the campus radio station where there were about 5 or 6 of us lounging around, just shooting the breeze the day before Easter break. So we all volunteered on the spot, anything to get our foot in the door at a real radio station. Suddenly, he's besieged with 6 eager faces. He's got to pick somebody. He looks quickly around the room, points to me in the corner. He says, "You, the short guy, you'll fit the costume best of all. You start tomorrow."
That's
Boom.
Amazing.
The size matters, I'm telling you.
and an advantage. Yeah, the short guys sometimes complain about being short, but this in this one scenario, it made your life.
Yes, he figured at 5'4", I'd fit the outfit, but in reality, I got to tell you, fellas, he had a convenient excuse to say no to the other kids. You see, because when I saw the outfit, I said, anybody could have fit this, and I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, I just needed an excuse to get out of there fast. I didn't want to disappoint everybody.
Picked you and made an excuse, yeah.
So the whole premise, I'm not kidding, Jeff, the whole premise took 90 seconds. There was no audition, no job application to fill out, not even an interview.
Yeah.
He says, "Can you show up tomorrow at the zoo at 9 o'clock? I'll have the outfit there." Yes, okay. You give away the Easter eggs, and then you do that for an entire week. And we pay $2 an hour, and that's it. And don't hold your breath. It's not going to lead to anything.
But he might have been a genius, because who knew that you would end up being like so good at physical comedy? I know you're saying it like whimsically, like, I was just the short guy and that was his excuse because he just needed something to tell those other 6 people. But you're like a genius when it comes to like physical comedy, like the throwing down to first base, and even just like the idea of how do you make warming up the infielders funny? You still would find a way to throw a ground ball, catch it, and make it funny in multiple different ways. So like we should give him more credit. Maybe he had an eye for that kind of physical talent.
Well, you're very kind, Jeff.
Thank you.
That's nice of you to say. I got to tell you, when I put on the second skin, it tapped in a personality. It tapped into a psyche I did not know I had until I put on the outfit. So it's amazing what a characterization can draw out of someone.
Absolutely.
I the whole premise was just to go to the zoo. But how did I end up at a Padre game or start going to sports events? Well, the Padres were having opening day in 1974, and I figured this would be perfect to get in for free.
Yeah, there you go.
I called up the team, they let me come down in return if I gave them a plug on the air somehow.
Yeah.
Got that done. And so I went and started cavorting around. Fans were fascinated. It was very
Of course.
unprecedented for its time.
I saw a little clip of it. They were like swarming you.
Oh, yeah.
People
Yeah,
were just like swarming, like, get a photo with the guy in the... Well, maybe not photo because there wasn't like smartphones and stuff, but everyone was swarming around you,
Right.
high-fiving you, giving you drinks.
Right, exactly. And they break out their little Instamatic cameras, what have you.
Okay.
But it created a little bit of a stir. Look at this goofball, and it just took the attention away from the Padres losing, so it created a unique diversion for the fans, but it added to the ambience. And so the radio station management got very excited about this, and so they would send me back for more, and I would go back and continue doing the games. Padre management was very happy because their customers were happy, and that's all that mattered at the time to them. And so I just continued with the thing. And as I did it more and more, I started asking myself, what would make me laugh if I was sitting in those seats?
Sure.
And so I just tried to come up with physical gags that would relate to the audience. And keep in mind, first and foremost, I was an advertising vehicle for the radio station.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I had the call letters on my jersey at the time. And mysteriously, it's interesting to note, the radio station's ratings began to rise, and we went from worst to first, in a matter of, it took about a year or so, but I was like a walk-around billboard. So it was really a one of the early instances, if not the first instance, of guerrilla marketing as it's known today.
Absolutely. Chicken marketing. But here's the thing is, like radio is kind of and I know they hate it when I say this because I often do morning radio to promote my stand-up comedy shows when I'm on the road, and they hate it when I mention this, but radio is falling off. Like it's, podcasts are very big, streaming things like this, like the long form media, and radio's ratings have dropped. You've outlasted radio. You went farther than the station that hired you.
It's amazing. Back then, fellas, there was a rock and roll spirit, and the radio really meant something. And I still think it can make a comeback. It can come back. Just got to add a little fun to it. And so when it's mechanical and it's just very short, but back then there were personalities on the air, and DJs would have a little leeway with the music, and they would know the music and could talk backstories. And I was just an offshoot of all that.
Yeah.
I was an ambassador at large for KGB, and I would go all across town doing all kinds of sports events, but also cultural events and barbecues and parades, trade shows, conventions, birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, anything. I'd go to discotheques. I was an ambassador at large, again, representing the radio station. And it was almost like a very festive party atmosphere wherever I would go. And it was neat. In fact, I remember one time there was an editorial in the local newspaper that said, an event is not an event in San Diego unless it's sanctioned by the attendance of the chicken. So I consider that a feather in my cap, so to
Of
speak.
course.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the Mascot Hall of Fame. Have they ever given you the key to the city?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I've been given the key to the city. And in fact, back in the 80s, Governor Pete Wilson, when he was governor of California, had a proclamation made by the state legislature that named me an official historical landmark of California.
There you go.
Awesome. I love
I think
that.
that's the highest honor at the state.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
one of the highest honors, too, is like that you could be so funny. And I know that you call yourself the world famous chicken, right?
I just call myself the famous San Diego chicken.
Okay, but you put San
there are
Diego's in
times-
there.
Yeah, sometimes I call myself the famous chicken. I'll explain.
Okay.
I would go in for various teams. I've been to all 50 states and 8 countries around the world. And sometimes I would go into a town where San Diego was a rival,
Right.
and the team did not want to promote San
yeah.
Diego. If, for example, I go to San Francisco, well, do we have to call you San Diego?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I go into Seattle. Okay. The Seahawks, the Chargers. I'd go to Buffalo, Indianapolis. can we just call you the famous chicken? You see, and so it doesn't look like you're carrying the colors for San Diego necessarily.
Sure.
And I said, yes, that's fine. So I would have a couple of monikers like that.
Yeah, that's what I was guessing because, like, I mean, even Ted Turner hired you at one point to come out over there, and he wanted you to be like theirs, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got to say, Ted Turner put me on the map in 1978. He approached the Padres and literally asked if he could trade for me.
Yeah.
They
How
offered a
crazy is
backup
that?
catcher. Ted Turner offered a backup. Biff Pocaroba was his name.
That poor
to be-
bastard. Don't even say his name. I feel bad for him. That's his claim to fame too, unfortunately, but it's not the fame that he wants.
Yeah. It's like the guy who gave up the home run to Hank Aaron to like
Yeah.
set the record. Like that's what he's known for.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, like, the San Diego chicken is incredibly legendary, but no disrespect, you got no hits, you got no hitters, and this guy's like, hey, I'm a real ball player. And they're like, oh, the
we want the
chicken's killing
chicken.
it.
We want the chicken.
We want the chicken. You're out of here.
And it was Ballard Smith, the president of the team, that had to explain to Ted Turner, he's not ours to swap, believe it or
Right.
not. He's just a radio station kid that shows up to all our games every night. So Turner did an end around. And he flew me into Atlanta for a game, and in the middle of the game, that's where he called for me to come and visit him to his seats, which were right behind the dugout. He didn't sit in the sweet boxes. He always sat.
He loves
behind the
baseball,
dugout.
which I love that about him.
And right there's video of it. He's making his pitch to me to come to Atlanta, and he even had a business card written up.
Oh,
and
wow.
at the time, for a kid making $2 an hour, he wrote on his business card, for my pal Ted Giannoulas, my name in real life, and he says $50,000, and he hands it over to me and says, "That's our contract. You start tomorrow." That was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Of course, when I took a few days to think about it, it got raised to $100,000.
Oh, boy.
And so that was added pressure, and then it broke in the San Diego media that I was considering
And then
it.
they got all mad.
They got, I mean, and I decided to stay. The outpouring of emotion was that strong in San Diego.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it was front page news.
Yeah.
That's
Above the
also
fold.
what a great lesson for loyalty.
Yeah.
You weren't even being loyal to a team that was paying you a lot. It's not like you weren't being loyal. You were being loyal to like, this is going to be bad for me. This is going to be bad for the city. I should probably stay true to a city who's paying me $2 an hour. You never see that nowadays.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
You know, fellows, I got to tell you, sometimes you go through life and you wonder if you have an impact. And there was a moment there that I had to come to grips. I said, you know, I could go with Ted Turner, and he was telling me, you're going to have your own TV show,
Nice.
you're going to have merchandising, you're going to travel around the world. I'm going to make you huge. And I believed it. And I was a Ted Turner fan at the time. But then when you saw the outpouring of emotion, the editorials that were on television, and fans writing letters, and the interviews, and the pleas that to stay, it made you think, wow, it's something so irrelevant means so much to so many people here in town. So I couldn't, believe it or not, I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. I stayed with my heart rather than my head.
Yeah.
And it still worked out for me, but
Yeah.
I always think to this day, and it never escapes me, what might have been had I gone with Ted Turner at the time. And he was a big believer in what I did.
They could have turned on you though. That little move could have been detrimental.
You never know, but that's a good point.
Yeah, because
Because
people would have said, "Well, then forget it. Then if this guy's just gonna jump around to wherever, forget it." You know, like that might have saved the spirit of the chicken.
and that's the whole idea. I mean, San Diego taught me, hey, you were raised with our laughter in our grandstand.
Yeah.
You belong to us, you know? And Ray Kroc always he was the owner of the Padres. And he was the founder of McDonald's, as you know.
Yeah,
But he always said something about the
edgy
team.
movie.
He always said something about his team that I had to also adopt as well. He said, the team might be privately owned, but it's publicly held.
Mm.
And I got to thinking, you know, in a way, that spirit really, I guess, shines on me as well.
Absolutely.
You know, at the time, the character may have been owned by someone else, but it's held by the public.
I love that idea. I'm going to write that down. That's a good way to think about a lot of things in sports culture. Because Tony, a guy like Tony, he'd have just taken the money, you know? That's what Tony would have done.
Hey,
Real scoundrel. This guy, you know,
Gotta
it's all he cares about.
I
agree with you. All right, so on this podcast, as a lot of the listeners know, sometimes it's silly, sometimes it's philosophical, sometimes it's just pure surface level friendship. But here's the question for you. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Oh, I can't tell you that, or I'll be henpecked. Actually,
I think in your scenario, you came first, not the egg.
yeah,
There was an egg.
that's right. That's right. I suppose that's true. And for what I do, yes, I did come first, and then later on, yes, there was an egg and a grand hatching.
And they put you in it. And it was hard to get out, wasn't it?
It was. You sir have done some research.
My whole life. I've researched you my whole life.
I can tell. Yes, believe it or not, after 5 years with the radio station, after even denying Ted Turner, I was fired by the radio station. Talking about loyalty, okay? And so I figured, okay, I'm going to come back on my own, and like a free agent chicken.
Yeah.
So I designed my own outfit, and the radio station filed a lawsuit to prevent me from branching out on my own.
Oh, gosh.
We came to loggerheads over my career growth. We had philosophical differences, and we had a falling apart. Back then, this was 1979.
Yep.
So I decided I'm making my own comeback, and I designed a 9 to 10 foot styrofoam egg that I was going to hatch out of. Had it hollowed out.
Great.
And presented it before a Padre game. Sold out crowd came out to watch the grand hatching, and the players brought me out, laid me out on the diamond, and then to 2001 I hatched out of the egg and got carried off the field by the players, and it was a 10-minute standing ovation from the fans, a remarkable and emotional moment, and definitely a defining moment in my life and career.
Yeah. I remember watching it kind of just roll around, which I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but like it was almost like really waiting for a chickling to come out going, I don't know if this little guy's strong enough to get out of that thing, you know, because it's a baby chicken.
Yeah, very Twilight Zone-ish. Yes, I did roll around in the egg. I was tumbling inside, rolling around on my own. Fans were going crazy, like, oh, that egg is rolling around on its own. It's going from third base to second and back. But I was literally tumbling in there. Then came time to punch out, and the egg would not break at first. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be stuffed in here. But finally it just exploded with a final thrust. I tried to kick it out, and it boom. But I'm telling you, there's something I noticed, that the emotion of that night. We had, like I say, 47,000 people in attendance that night. Sold out the entire game.
Wow.
And I'll give you a little backstory in a second about the crowd. But I was so excited over what was going on and so nervous. It was up 80 degrees outside, but inside that egg, fellas, I'm telling you, I was breaking out in a cold sweat.
Really?
Oh, yes. Wow. I don't want to sound like a James Brown song, but literally, I was trembling. I mean, I'd never experienced that. I was that nervous, that excited, that the cold sweat was pouring out of my skin.
Oh my gosh.
And I was shivering. Literally shivering.
But it was like the rebirth too, and it's finally now the chicken's yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I came out 10 minutes standing ovation, like I say. And a little backstory, because I was in litigation defending myself against my ex-employers at the radio station, I literally had no funds to fight them. So I made a side deal with the Padres on that particular game, that if we were to draw over the average attendance of the Padres, which was about 15,000 fans, that they would end up paying me $1.50 for everybody I could draw.
Like a door deal.
Like a door deal.
Yeah.
And they didn't think anything of it. They said, Ted, if that's what it's going to take, let's do it. But the Padres were in second last place, and that night they were playing Houston, who was in last place. They weren't anticipating any kind of turnout, really.
Wow.
and yet 47,000
Wow.
people. That the next day, the Padres wrote me a check for almost $44,000.
Wow.
Believe it or not,
Yeah,
I
that's
was
great.
I was the highest paid athlete in America for one night, in the world for that night.
Yeah.
And in fact, 10 times more than any ball player was making for a single game. But I wish I could say I did smart things with it: buy real estate, buy stocks, or hire ZZ Top to play at my birthday party.
Yeah.
No, none of those things.
Oh.
It all went into my defense fund, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Sure.
But it kept me alive, and I was able to succeed. And then the courts ruled in my favor and
Yeah.
made
Right.
me a free agent chicken.
Yeah.
Well, I like pictures. You've been in litigation a few times because of some gags and things like that. I like picturing you in the courtroom in costume. That's what I like picturing. Is you in there defending yourself in Did you do that?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes. When the KGB was suing me, I had to go to court to explain why this suit was different than the old suit that I had.
Right.
You know, and so there were sketch artists in there. You know, and
man.
I had to wear. I wore the outfit. In fact, yeah, sport magazines would actually show the pictures of me in court.
There's none of that on the internet. I'm gonna find that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll tell you what. It was the first time. My case was the first time cameras were allowed in the courtroom to photograph the defendant.
Maybe the only time too. I mean, there and after.
Well, at that time, yeah, and now the cameras are allowed in the courtroom. But
Oh, I didn't know
back
that.
then, yeah, back then there was nothing allowed except that they allowed still shooting. For this case, they actually allowed still shots, so the photographers were allowed to come in and shoot still photography,
Wow.
but they couldn't they couldn't shoot during the trial itself. But as we assembled in and sat at the tables,
Wow.
and they it was the first time in California law. Yep.
That is
That's
I
crazy.
had no idea that. I just like to picture it in my mind of you standing there in the costume.
The media told me that themselves. I did not know that at the time, but I was in full costume.
Oh, that's
in
amazing.
the courtroom to show off my outfit, because the radio station was arguing he's still a chicken. He can't be doing that. That's our idea. But the courts, like I say, ruled it okay in my favor.
Well, and also you made it what it was. It was way more than a costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what the courts said as well, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They said, yeah.
Now I
It's-
know you already talked about the egg, but tell our listeners the story about there was a little bit of a hostage situation with that egg, right?
Oh, yes, there was.
Yeah.
Man alive. Yes, the night before the grand hatching, the egg was stolen from its mount in the bleachers of San Diego Stadium.
That's
Now, I had it
insane.
mounted there to show off the whole week.
And it's
a-
huge. I mean, that's not an easy thing to steal.
It's not an easy thing to steal, but it turns out there are about four guys, surfer guys, I guess, and they thought that would be a cool thing to bring back to the neighborhood as a trophy, for the neighborhood kids. So they literally, after the game that afternoon, at Thursday afternoon, my thing was the next night. They literally held out in the bathroom stalls of Jack Murphy Stadium, San Diego, waited for everybody to leave, and as midnight approached, they finally let themselves out, which is about 6 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a
Jeez.
commitment.
Quite a
Yes,
heist.
quite a commitment.
Yeah,
Quite a
Yeah.
heist. Yeah.
Jeff, and they literally picked up the egg and hauled it out in a truck and took off. And only the night watchman saw them and tried to chase after them. It was hopeless. and the next day, the news broke. I was accused by many sources of trying to stage something.
Get some press or something, drum up
and
some.
I'd explain to the police, no, this is legitimate. I was blaming my ex-radio employers, who I think were raining on my parade.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were blaming me
Right.
for trying to frame them for publicity. And of course, it was none of the above.
Just four drunk guys
That's
going, hey, we got it. And you're like, my grand hatching is tomorrow.
That's right. So, how did I get the egg back? Well, they after they learned and sobered up that it was a felony theft and they could all be looking at sentences in San Quentin, they decided to call up a local news reporter, have him be the go-between, and he negotiated a settlement in terms of the release for the egg. And those terms were no prosecution for any of them, 4 tickets to the game that night, and all the beer they could drink on the house. I made the deal.
Yeah, and I love that they met the terms. You know, the whole famous, like, we don't negotiate, you know, we don't ever negotiate with any hostage situations.
Yeah.
And then or the Padres, I don't know who actually had to meet those terms, were like, just give it to them, these dumb idiots. They're drunk. Just give us the egg back. Like,
Yeah.
I love that's the end of that story.
That's right.
That's so fun.
Yeah, and it came back, and of course, it even heightened the anticipation of
sure.
the grand
Oh,
hatching.
yeah. And I guess they drummed up some good press. Those guys kind of were worth their weight, I think.
Yeah, that's
For
right.
sure.
And I met them afterwards, and they told me the backstory, and they were good fellas. They were really cool guys.
I
about
love that.
Yep.
They must have been pretty nervous going up to the box office, being like, you know, hey,
Yeah,
What are
but
the
they,
four
we're here
guys?
for those tickets. Don't ask any questions.
yeah, but they had me on camera, you know, saying to the reporter, nothing. There'll be no charges brought against them
Right.
whatsoever.
The
You
chicken's
know?
word is his bond.
Yes.
Yep.
And I don't want to lead you because I don't know the answer to this question, and I don't want to presume about the grand hatching maybe being that defining moment. But was there a moment you realized that you're going to be this forever? Like you're going to be the world famous San Diego chicken?
You know, that's a good question, Jeff. I think that probably dawned on me a few years earlier.
Okay.
And I remember having so much fun with what I was doing. And I remember saying to myself, man, I can do this forever.
Yeah.
You know, and I was enjoying it. Fans were enjoying it. And even though I was just making minimum wages, I just felt, you know, there's a path there somewhere. I don't know where, but all these people enjoying and laughing and getting so much encouragement, not only from my employers at the time, but the Padres and other teams in town. I just felt, you know, that I'm onto something good. What it is, I couldn't put my chicken finger on, but I knew it would lead to something.
Yeah.
And then I just continued doing it, which was unheard of because again, it was like a 1 week, 10-day promotion, but just manifested itself.
Yeah.
And the only reason it continued is because the audiences carried it with their laughter.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally like, I think it's a job people don't think about. Like pro wrestling is a very strange job. And so some people will say like when you tell someone you're a stand-up comedian, they go, really? They want to ask like follow-up questions. When you tell people you're a pro wrestler, they have like 75 ignorant questions about it because it's not a job that you know people that do. And I imagine people must ask you questions all the time when they find out what you do. Right? Like what are those kind of questions? Like, do they ask like silly things, or is it always like, oh, that's great? Or
Oh, sure, but I don't mind. You see, if there's an interest and a fascination, I love the consideration.
Yeah.
I really do that. Someone that would have that kind of interest to ask. Of course, they'll ask, does it get hot in the suit?
Sure.
Well, of course, I'm always in heat. Yeah. You know? And, you know, of course, how'd you get started?
Sure.
Did you think you would do this forever?
Right.
And of course, the answers are obvious. I just wanted my foot in the door at a real radio station. And you know what I did, fellas? Let me tell you. Here's the secret. It was an opportunity. And if they ask wear a chicken suit, the answer was yes. If they wanted me to empty trash cans, the answer would have been yes. Shine records, yes. I would have done anything just for the opportunity to get my foot in the door and then start from there. I figured if I worked my tail off, no pun intended, but if I worked my tail off, they would see that I would put forth so much good faith and energy that somebody would say, hey, get that, if he's going to put that much energy, get that kid out of that stupid job and let's give him something with teeth.
Right.
Absolutely.
The ironic thing that happened, though, I got to be such a good chicken. They said, we can't replace this PR for anything.
Yeah.
Just keep them right there.
Yeah.
And I saw other people get promotions and I saw other people get those jobs filled. And I still stayed with the costume.
Sure.
Not that I minded, but you know, you see everybody jump over you
Yeah.
and say, what are you doing wrong? You're putting out all this energy and good faith. And I was working 12, 14 hours during ratings times easily and still going to school. at San
Jeez.
Diego State till I was graduated in 76. But, I didn't complain. I just figured there's something that's going to pay off along the way here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I was having fun, and that mattered to me as well. And so I just continued. Have been doing it ever since.
Yeah. Is there a perk of being a mascot that people might not know or recognize?
The perk, I guess, I enjoy things in my heart, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's just to hear those fans laughing, it's the warmest sound to me. I always wanted to be a comic myself.
Yeah. Well, you are.
And I just fell into this. I discovered it, and it's just that enjoyment that to hear that sound and knowing that you made somebody's day, or at least an hour.
Yeah.
And they tell you, they come up, they'll shake your hand, they'll give you a hug. It's remarkable, and it's just very heartfelt, and it makes you feel, hey, you've contributed something to someone. And I don't mean to sound corny about
It doesn't sound corny. I agree with you 1000%. I think it's also like the cleanest comedy, and it's the most. It's got the best spirit to it. We talked about it before the podcast, but being a mascot or seeing a mascot or having a moment with a mascot, like I remember Linda Rambis was telling me a story about how Kurt Rambis, her husband, got traded to Phoenix, and the kids were heartbroken because they're like, man, we've known Los Angeles. That's where we grew up. That's where our friends are. That's where our school is. And when they moved to Phoenix, the moment that they really were kind of excited is that she booked the Phoenix Suns Guerilla to come to their birthday party. And they were young enough that was like this special thing. And they're grown men now, and they still talk about that birthday party because it's got a specialness to it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah,
I love it.
there are little things like that that just stay with you. It's a lifetime memory.
Absolutely. So this next question, Pete Rose bet me I wouldn't ask you.
Yeah.
When they used your suit for World Wrestling Entertainment, which I'm not sure what pay-per-view it was, but Kane, Undertaker's undead brother, is famous for tombstone pile driving mascots, and he got the Phoenix Suns Guerilla. He also, Pete Rose was in this costume for World Wrestling.
WrestleMania 2000.
WrestleMania 2000. Thank you, Tony. Were you there, or did you just let them use the costume?
No, I was there.
Okay.
I was there, and I was cavorting ahead of time. And as the storyline went, Pete Rose had me abducted backstage, and then took the suit from me, put it on so we could approach Kane again, thinking that it'd be me, and so he could get in some free slugs on Kane or something. But Kane, you might say, just countered him by ripping off the head to see who's this goofy guy. Turns out it's Pete Rose, and that's when he picked him up and pile drived him into the canvas.
Again,
Because he had a history with Pete Rose.
Yeah, they kept going back and forth.
So this was him
Pete
trying
would
to get
go
the upper
talk
hand.
trash to the local town like a heel.
Yep.
And then Kane would come out for some reason like he loved Cincinnati or something. Oh, wait, no, who was the rival for Cincinnati?
Oh, the big rival for Cincinnati back then was the Dodgers.
Oh yeah, well he would come whatever city he was. Oh, it was the Mets. He went there and he was doing all these Mets jokes, if I recall. He was going, "Hey, I just got off the phone with Billy Buckner. I left him tickets to tonight, but he couldn't bend all the way down to get them." He was like, just doing all these jokes that someone wrote, of course. And they're booing him, and he's like, "You guys will never win a World Series." Oh no, it was in Boston. That's right, it was in Boston. He's like, "You guys will never win a World Series," and they're like booing him, and everyone's mad. And then the real Big Red Machine, because that's what they call Kane.
No, that wasn't WrestleMania 2000. It was the one before.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was the Austin versus Shawn Michaels one, I think.
He knows everything
In
about
Boston,
wrestling.
but in Boston.
Well, but I know, but the Pete Rose wearing Ted's chicken thing was not the same event as the one we're talking about.
Yeah, that's when that Pete Rose one started.
We'll figure all that out. It's a lot. But you were there.
Yes.
Was it fun? They took care of you? They treated you good and all that?
Oh, yeah. Everybody was absolutely super. Kane's hands were massive. You go to shake his hands,
he's a big
yours
guy. Disappears
right in it.
Yeah, I think he's like 6'9".
Something like that.
Yeah, 6'9". And you know what? He's a mayor now.
Yeah.
In a town in Tennessee, I think it is.
Let's get this. Get a good shot of this.
There he is.
There he is.
You holding that. Get that shot, Jack.
Whoa. Look at this.
That is amazing. So that's cool. So have you ever thought about releasing, I'll just put it right there. Have you ever thought about releasing like a coffee table book of like all the images that you must have collected over the years of you with all these people?
That's a good idea, and I've thought about that just loosely off and on, and I've got to get cracking on stuff like that. You're absolutely
I'd love to
correct.
help you with it, though it's literally the, you're the world's most famous chicken, like in the life of like in a time where chickens are just being slaughtered and eaten,
Yeah.
like you're easily the most successful chicken. That'd be a great book to own.
Well, I've done this in a career that spanned 5 decades, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And the stories that I've encountered are just remarkable. And I should put together a chicken book of memoirs.
Yeah.
Funny stuff, things that have happened, and not just in sports, but it's happened in music and so many other endeavors. And
My agent would scoop that up in a second.
This
If
is-
you
and this is
want
the
help, I'll help
the
you get
sixth-
it published.
The 6th decade now.
I want $0 on record. I don't want any part of it. I want one copy. That's what I want.
now that you mention it, Tony, that's absolutely right now.
Yeah.
Since we're early in the year, this marks my first appearance in the 6th decade.
There it is.
There it
We
is.
did it. We're a part of some little chicken nugget
history.
history.
Yeah.
Like a
There you
little
go.
chicken nugget of history.
There you go.
That's a
Amazing.
good question.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that. So it's the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the new millennium, and then
The 10s and now the
10s?
20s.
The tens.
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, just Tony, great one. I didn't even think about
Good
that.
math. Wait, so
You're good at math.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not. I would have never put
I'm the
that
brains
together.
of this operation.
Do you eat chicken?
Yes, believe it or not.
Oh no.
It helps eliminate my competition.
Yeah, there you go.
If you can't beat them,
It's like,
eat them.
it's like Highlander. There can only be
That's the clip right there. If you can't beat them, eat them. That's a still shot with a quote behind it. That is phenomenal.
I mean, think of the marketing opportunities. If I'm the last chicken standing,
Yeah.
that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
It's like the opposite of the Chick-fil-A cows. Well,
Yeah.
they're like telling you like eat more chicken because
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
want to be eaten. You're like, yeah, eat the chicken.
Eat
so
the chicken, not me.
I'm still standing.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just skin and bones. Although I did put a few pounds on after the holidays, but still, when that goes, I'm just skin and bones.
That is funny. So here's a weird one. I know like lots of players loved doing gags with you. Like and it seemed like more so in like the 70s and 80s, you could get 20 of them to do a gag with you,
Yeah.
or you could get like a big group of them carry you up or like come tackle you and do all these different things. Who were the people who were the easiest to like, hey, say I'm gonna try this gag or I'm gonna like mess with you a little bit, and then who were the worst?
I got to tell you, I would encounter so much good faith from guys, whether they were stars, regular players, or even bench warmers. What I did, I appealed to their sense of humor.
Sure.
And it's remarkable that if you get laughs, boy, that is great currency. That you have credibility, and and I got to tell you guys, you'd be surprised how many times players, umpires, and coaches, and let alone fans, would come to me with their own ideas for gags and routines.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yes. So a lot of what I did on the diamond were ideas thought of by the players or the umpires themselves, and I would go out and implement them. And if they got a good reaction, I would make them a permanent part of the repertoire for the future.
That's great. Yeah, because I always loved the stuff with umpires the most because you don't think of umpires in a silly way. Like,
They're the law.
we know the players. Yeah, we know the players that are goofballs and we know the players that are a little bit serious. So we kind of can figure that out based on their personality. But the umpires, you don't know. I mean, I guess they put their names on TV for like 30 seconds, but
Sure, yeah.
they're the authority. They're the serious, that you don't see it. So when you would get them to do gags, essentially making fun of their profession sometimes, like that they can't see or that they're cheap and didn't give you money for the shoe shine or whatever whatever you did with them. It was always like, wow, good on the umpire too. Like
Yeah,
I would
well,
think good on you, but also
Who'd
good
have
on that
thought, who'd have
umpire.
thought
that
it'd
he-
take a chicken to humanize the umpire?
yeah.
That's right. That's right. In fact, one time, the late, great Daryl Garrettson, an NBA referee, told me, this legendary guy, he said he loved it when he was doing a game and it was chicken night because it got the fans off his back.
Oh, yeah.
They would not be biting his backside, he said, as long as they're laughing at the chicken all night.
Yeah,
It
that's
just
true.
created a different ambience in the arena, and he could do his job and not have to worry about, guys or fans that had negative attitudes. you
Yeah,
know?
I love because it lightens the mood, which is the
Right.
whole reason other teams started doing it. Is because teams were like, "Hey, we're losing a lot. They're throwing batteries at the third baseman. Like, let's get someone out here to lighten
Take
the
some
mood
heat.
a little bit."
Yeah.
But that not everyone is as big of a fan of the San Diego Chicken and mascots as me. Who were the managers or anybody? You got anything like that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. There were a few players that didn't care for it. I remember, and Eddie Murray,
Really?
a big first baseman,
Hall
with
of
the-
Famer.
Hall of Famer with the Baltimore Orioles.
Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, but he, guys like that though, I got to tell you, they had the game face on for everybody.
Right.
Sure.
And that's what I came to learn, and which was okay. That's fine. I could deal with it because there are 24 other players on the team who were good natured and such. But Frank Thomas, believe it or not, was another one.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
See, I knew Eddie Murray, and these are my words, not your words. I knew Eddie Murray was a little prickly and kind of not a real warm guy to fans and things, so that doesn't surprise me. But Frank Thomas, you would think for sure he's like a big, lovable guy.
Yeah, you'd think that, but there were times, no, apparently he didn't care for it, even though I didn't do very much with him.
Right.
But I remember one time, just a quick side story, I was in Anaheim for the Angels, and what I had was a fake shortstop that I was going to plant out there, unbeknownst to the fans, that I was going to karate flip, okay? And he was an acrobat, so he would do all the karate flipping, but it looked like, I would accost him in a White Sox uniform and beat him up. So as a courtesy, I said to the kid, okay, let's go in and talk to Frank Thomas, the first baseman, so when he's warming up the infield, he doesn't look across the diamond and say, that's not my
a
shortstop.
yeah.
So I go in there, and as I'm approaching him, he's just walking out, and I'm approaching him. Oh, Frank, Ted Giannoulas, San Diego Chicken. He says, oh, no, don't even look at me. I'm not going to be any part of anything. And I'm thinking, what? And here's this behemoth, 6'7".
He's 6'7",
I'm
257.
5'4", okay? And I couldn't believe the guy was turning white right in front of me. And so I turned to my assistant at the time, who was a black kid himself, believe it or not. And I'll say, let's leave, okay? And so let him figure it out on his own.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, when it came time, he and my assistant trotted out there, ready to take the throw at shortstop. He actually had to double cock the
Yeah,
ball.
like a
and wonder
DN.
what's going on, But eventually, he tossed him the ball, and he threw it back, and then I was able to do my sketch. But as a courtesy, we just wanted to let the guy know.
Yeah.
And he just flew off the handle, and I never forgot that, And I said,
Was
okay.
he more afraid? Because he's like, oh, he's going to mess with me or
Yeah.
he's going to do a thing. It wasn't like he was mad or anything. He was just kind of like, I'm not doing none of this stuff. I'm shy, kind of, right?
Well, no, he seemed a little perturbed when you're talking to him. I said, forget it. I remember turning to my friend there and said, okay, we'll just go ahead and do it. Let him figure it out.
Yeah.
But because we already had the okay from the manager.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
And the shortstop, Ozzie Guillen, at the time, he was going to sit it out in the dugout. He knew about it, So we let everybody know what we're up to,
And I would have guessed the opposite. I would have guessed Ozzie Guillen would
Would've
be
been
a
like,
no
no way.
mascot type of
Yeah.
guy, and
Oh.
Frank Thomas would be more receptive.
Ozzie he loved it.
Well, he's very unpredictable, so that makes sense that I didn't predict that. Because
Yeah.
there's some things he's very weird about and some things he's very sweet about.
He laughed like crazy. Oh, he loved it. He told me personally how much he enjoyed all the performances whenever our paths crossed, and when I saw the White Sox either at home or on the road, what have you. Yep.
Well, he's the opposite of old Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Lasorda, not a big fan of mascots. Went
No.
rounds with the Philly Fanatic.
Yeah.
Went rounds with the Montreal Expos, and I might be messing this up, but I think it was the Weeble. You ever had any rounds with Tommy Lasorda?
Yeah, believe it or not, yes, I did. Even though he did a TV show with us called The Baseball Bunch,
Nice.
where he was the dugout wizard. and in this what was show. The show was like almost like the Bad News Bears, but with real baseball tips for kids.
Okay.
Okay. And it starred Johnny Bench and myself every week, and Tommy was on that show, but he shot all of his stuff in a studio in Los Angeles, just talking about the history of the game and showing some video clips. And he wore a turban, and they called him the Dugout Wizard. It was very funny, anyway. But on one particular game in San Diego. It was in the early 80s. The Padres had just won a big game over the Dodgers with a bang-bang play at home plate. And earlier in the game, I had done a sketch on the field with a Padre hat and a Dodger hat where I'm doing the Mexican hat dance around both. And I end up stepping on the Dodger hat by mistake 27 times.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oops.
Mistake.
So-
Oops. Yeah.
I remember one of the
oops,
outfielders
oops.
trotting out to his position at the time, Dusty Baker, and he yelled over to me. He says, "Teddy, I don't think Tommy liked that last one." Because Tommy Lasorda was really protective of all things Dodgers,
Yeah.
the logo, the history, everything. Okay,
Which is why they don't have a mascot to this day.
bingo,
Yeah.
bingo. They're a very buttoned down organization. So. Anyway, by happenstance comes after the game. I'm leaving through the corridor where the players file in, and Tommy Lasorda is walking out of the lunchroom area there in the corridor, but next to the Dodgers clubhouse, with his after-game spread where he had a plate full of lasagna. It was piled high, okay? And by happenstance, as he's coming out, my luck, he's right next to me as he turns the corner. I'm turning the corner. Boom! We're face to face. He blows a gasket when he sees me. He pins me up against the wall with his elbows, literally, and a plate full of food, and his mouth was chock full of pasta.
Oh.
And he starts yelling a Dodger blue streak at me, with the press standing around trying to turn their back. I could tell they were feeling sorry for me.
Yeah.
They were embarrassed for me. But here was Tommy leveling the riot act to me, full scale, and his face was just packed with pasta. Like I said, the marinara spittle was going all over my beak. And I'm thinking to myself, he's going to hit me or something. But I'm thinking, oh, dear God, please don't let this man choke with his food down his esophagus pipe.
Gosh.
I'm going to get blamed if he does.
Yeah.
The curse of the San Diego chicken if you take down Tommy.
You're right. So he just lays into me, yells. He doesn't hit me. He does not hit me. He's finally done with his tirade, and he leaves. And I'm exhausted and relieved beyond belief, because then had he choked, then I was praying for the man as he was yelling at me. I said, "Don't, dear God, don't let
What a
him
sweet
choke."
chicken. What a sweet
The
chicken.
headlines are going to read, "Chicken chokes Lasorda."
Yeah, and they're gonna be like, was it a chicken lasagna? Or like, I don't understand.
Yeah, Dodger fans would have hated me, but
Yeah.
I probably would have been voted governor of California.
Yeah.
I would pay so much money for a photo, like just a photograph of that moment of Lasorda
how
yelling at a chicken.
You know how they do those like police sketches when like someone's missing and you can like, oh, their eyes are like this, and they can do that. We need to have like a photo
sketch,
recreation
oh
of
my
that
gosh!
moment.
And we know what Tommy looks like. We know what the chicken looks like. It would be one of the greatest images ever. If any of you fans that listening want to make us some art that'll really make me smile, I want Tommy with his elbows with a big pile high pasta, verbally
Marinara
accosting,
coming out.
and then a little speech bubble that has just like a pound sign and exclamation points and all the filthy words that we know Tommy must have said.
Yeah.
He's a colorful guy verbally.
Anytime you hear stories about how protective he is of all things Dodgers, believe it. It's not a story. It's real.
I think he once said he wants the Dodgers schedule printed on his tombstone, so when he dies and someone's visiting their like relative or something at the same cemetery, they'll say, "Let's go down to Tommy's tombstone and see if the Dodgers are playing home or away today." Like, what a morbid, weird thing, but that's how much he loves the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. So you were the first mascot. My opinion, the best mascot, my favorite. But Do you have any other mascots that you think are doing a great job, or that when you see them, you go, I like that mascot, or I like that's a guy I root for?
I tell you, my favorite one is the University of Florida Gator,
Oh, okay.
Albert the Gator. I'm telling you, first of all, I think the suit is hysterical with that snout. You know, they can.
I don't think I've seen this one.
Isn't he wearing like a turtleneck?
He's got a turtleneck going.
Sweatshirt.
It's very cute.
Yeah.
And he can
pull him
lip
up.
sync the national anthem with that snout.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's got that protruding tail, the turtleneck sweater. I think the suit is funny, but I saw him one time. Mimicking and talking trash
Albert
to
and
a sideline
Alberta.
reporter.
I've never seen that. Okay.
There they are.
Yeah,
That's them.
yeah. It's Albert and Albertina.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
His
He's got a
wife.
lady. He's married.
And he was talking trash to the cameras, like, you know, you've seen players do or whatever, and he was mimicking up just like a player would. I thought it was so hysterical, and especially when his wife came over and tried to calm him down and settle him down. And I said, you know, as they break away for a commercial, you know. And I still remember how funny that was, and I said that's golden.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. But ever since, you know, I would just see him wandering around the court of a basketball game or the sidelines of a football game. I think it was just hysterical. Always gets me laughing.
Did you have any interactions whatsoever, like in your entire career, with Jim Henson? Was there any like overlap or any sort of introduction? Or?
Oh no, but I always admired Jim Henson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel like he loved this.
Yeah, you know, I never did. I never did ever encounter him. But, you know, I got to tell you, fellas, one of the things I've always enjoyed comedy, and it just inspires me to do what I do. So it can be whether it's a puppeteer or a mascot or obviously stand-up comedian or a physical comedian. The idea just resonates. The comedy, the spirit of it all just resonates in me, that it gets me thinking outside the box as well.
Yeah.
So I grew up enjoying everybody from Robert Klein, I remember,
Sure.
an observationist comedian, to Steve Martin, to Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
All of them would make me laugh, and it instilled a spirit in me to think outside the box and be a little bolder and try things, you know, that I wouldn't think of otherwise.
Yeah. And life's better that way, man.
Yeah,
When it's
absolutely
more when
is.
you're trying to not argue with people or try to be right all the time, but just being fun. People
Yes.
like that. They it makes you feel something.
Exactly right. Just being fun. And I took the spirit of what they were talking and conveying, and I just said, it's the spirit that counts. So you start goofing off, and
Yeah.
and it carried me through the grandstand. So the whole aura of it all just inspired me.
I love that. What's next? That's the big question for you. Is there anything we can promote? What can we see? Well, what if they want more San Diego chicken?
Well, I've got to admit, right now, fellas, I'm literally like in semi-retirement after all these decades of performing, and but you know what? There could be some things in the offing. Like I say, I've got the opportunity now to sit down and write some comedy memoirs and do a few other things that I think the chicken can stay around forever. You know,
I
and
think so
fans-
too.
I agree.
Fans have told me that. You know, sports fans have said to me that, because one time I thought, oh, I'll just go off into the sunset like Babe Ruth's number 3. Nobody will ever see the costume again, and that'll be it. They say, no. It's like it's.
I would be heartbroken.
Yeah, they said you mentioned Jim Henson.
Yeah.
Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, they're all still
They
around.
live on.
Yeah.
It's his legacy. It continues. The chicken should continue as well.
That's right.
And so who knows?
The San Diego chicken is 23 years old for life.
Yes, for life.
For life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how old were you when the San Diego chicken was born? Oh, actually, let's do it from the hatching. This chicken. When was the hatching?
Well, it was in 79, and so that was 41 years ago. But on top of that, I performed 5 years ahead of that for the radio station.
6-year-old chickling.
Yeah, and so, and I was still a student at, like I say, San Diego State at the time. And so it can still continue. It can probably be taken to the next level.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier how Ted Turner had a vision for it.
Yeah.
And who's to say what a media company could do?
Dude, I'll buy the empire from you. We'll keep it living forever. That'd be the money I'd spend. I don't need a new house. I need like that. We got to get the chicken to live on.
Chicken alive.
So I know you have a website. It's what is it specifically?
Oh, SanDiegoChicken.com.
Perfect.
Yeah, or FamousChicken.com.
And they can buy merchandise. You can buy. I was going to talk to you about that. You got to up the price on this stuff, man. Free. It's incredible. It's like free shipping and then like $6. I was like, this is going to be my like prized possession, and it's $6. I couldn't believe it. So you've got very reasonably priced merch on there. You've got a lot of interesting things about you on there. So that's where they should go. Famous Chicken.
And I'm updating the website soon, so we should have a fresh makeover after all these years pretty soon. But one of the things I've always done wherever I've performed, Jeff, whatever items I might have, I just try to keep them low cost for the fans. It's just a way to convey something that anybody would want at a very. I mean, I'm always asked, why are these prices so low?
Yeah, that's what I couldn't believe it. I thought it was fake or something.
I say
because
want them out there.
This card is $100.
Yeah.
What is it? Donruss made $100 off this card.
Yeah.
And then I could go straight to your website and get an autographed 8x10 from Ted Giannoulas. I was like, hey, what was I doing? Buying things from Donruss. I could, well, we love you, man. Thank you so much for being on this. Don't let the chicken die.
You're very kind.
I really
appreciate it, Jeff. Tony, you guys are
Thank you so much.
Super. Thanks for inviting me on.
Friendship.
I told you you'd love that episode. So much fun. Big thank you to Ted. Big thank you for all the working parts that brought him up here to get him on the pod. Big shout out to Randy Valerio for just giving us the idea of me inviting him. Big shout out to Tony for figuring out all the logistics of the car service and those kind of things. And an even bigger thank you to Ted for being willing to do this. He's semi-retired and he was still willing to come up here and be in costume for the whole episode. If you guys are watching this on patreon.com, we love you guys so much. Thank you for all the new subscribers. Thank you for what you're doing. We really appreciate you guys. Don't forget that if you are a subscriber to Patreon, you're not only able to watch this episode and all the other ones, connect with me. Send me messages. Hit me up. I'll reply to all those. You guys get top priority over everyone. Also, look at my calendar. Go to jeff.com. See when I'm going to be playing near you or in towns, and take me up on those free tickets. I will leave your name and plus ones in the box office under your name. We'll do a meet and greet. We'll take some photos. You are my friend. You guys are my boss. Essentially, you're my patrons, and we love you guys. We can't tell you how much it helps. If you aren't a patron, at least subscribe on iTunes or rate and review us. Give us a little share. Maybe share it to your friends. We do appreciate all of you guys, especially the patrons on patreon.com/JeffDye. If you'd like to watch all these the older episodes that are in a YouTube library, go to youtube.com/JeffDyesFriendship, and you can watch all that. We love you guys. Thanks so much. See you next week.